Hi there, how are you doing? My name is Duncan McIntyre, and today I'm going to be taking you through one of our snapshot reports that we are producing here at Yorkshire Water to give you a better idea of what we do and how we do it. In a moment, I'll show you my screen and show you the slide deck that I'll be taking you through. And in that, you'll be able to see our specialist theme for the month, which is water in the home. What you'll notice about the presentation today is that we are bringing this to you from a web format, and that's slightly different to how we've previously done these sorts of things. Power BI is the software that we use, and in particular we are focusing on our performance commitments that support how we consume water, how we interact with it, and how we respond to you when those things don't go according to plan. So as you can see here, we've got our little snapshot report here on water in the home. And within this, you'll be able to see that this is performance related to our 2018-19 annual performance review. And during that time, we had 26 performance commitments. Obviously, now we've moved into AMP7, which for some customers who don't necessarily know what that is our 2020 to 2025 reporting period. And what you can see within this is not just how much water has been used, but also how that looks across a full year. And the purpose of this is to show you not only whether we achieve the targets, but how customer interactions with our water influences whether we meet those targets as well. So our targets for consumption in 18-19 was 133.5 litres per head per day, which is in layman's terms how much water each of us uses. But as you can see on the graph, this tends to fluctuate across the full year, peaking in July at around 166 litres per person per day. And all this information is on the data mill, by the way. It's saved in the CSV format and it's really accessible. So if you want to replicate this information, then you're more than welcome to do so. The other thing that we've been able to identify is that there are different measures depending on whether you have a meter or not. So this factors in our unmeasured households as well as measured households. If you're wanting to know the splits between the two, then feel free to reach out to us and we'll see what we can get for you. As well as across the seasons, you can see it against household type as well. So for this one, we can see, depending on whether you're a 3-person property or a 4-person property, how that fluctuates over the year. So for us, there is a subtle adjustment in June and July as that peaks, and that's reflected across different household types. But it's more severe in certain ones than others. So in single property households, the peak is a little bit more severe. And you can also see as well, once you click into there, how that changes according to that property type. So you can see here there's an average bar level, which we saw previously, but for single person households, the per capita consumption is that much higher as an average. And that's because there's less people in that household to effectively share the water that we take for granted when we're bathing, when we're cleaning, just when we're going about our daily business. And that's interesting to note. So if you are a single person occupant and you are curious as to why there are higher consumptions for you than others, then that's the reason. It's because it's measured using PCC. There is another measure called total daily flow, which measures how much water goes into the property, and it doesn't take into account the number of people in that property, but Ofwat have recommended that we use PCC. The other things that we can talk about are around our contacts as well. So we have obviously call centres that respond to customer queries, and we in 1819 did get around 8,000 customer contacts with regards to our water quality. And that can differ depending on what those queries are relative to, but we can also identify some trends in that, and we can also understand how much of those are attributed to certain regions in our area. So as you can see in this graph here, as a top down, the main cities stand out as the ones that receive the most amount of contacts. Sheffield and Leeds tend to share the top mantle for a number of contacts, and then it tends to stagger down. And what you'll tend to find is that as you click on each of them, they will show you not only how many calls were registered, but during which months they were registered as well. So that gives you an indication on whether there was any particular months that a certain area peaked in water quality contacts. So for example, here we had 185 water quality contacts associated to Sheffield, attributed to Sheffield. And you can click on these graphs as well, so that they can show you which elements are relevant for you. So if you are wanting to understand the makeup of this particular metric, it will show you straight away up here in the Doncaster column. The other elements that I think are pertinent to us are around water quality, and it's really important that customers understand how many samples we actually take during the typical year, and what we test them against. So we test them against over 50 different samples, including E. coli and coliforms, and other metrics as well, which aren't as critical to public health. But just in short, the water quality is up to standard. We have an ambitious target of 100%, which we just about missed. In 1819, we achieved 99.962%, which down to decimal places of 3 isn't too bad. And just to put that into perspective, a pass rate of 0.9995 would require 5 failed samples in every 10,000 tested, or 1 failed sample in every 2,000 tested. And we've been able to map that as well, so you can see the proportion of those samples against each of the different regions. And again, you can see how that reflects across each of the different cities and towns, and the relative scores of those as well. So for Barnsley, for example, we had 4,500 samples tested with a 100% pass rate, so none of them failed in Barnsley. And you can take a look at this and you can kind of figure out what it means to you as well. And you can drill into the map as well, and you can click on the area that's of interest to you, and it will bring that detail up for you as well. I hope that's a really decent little snapshot of some of the things that we're doing to raise the openness and transparency in our business. And we are hoping to do the same with our 1920 data and build some trend analysis into it as well. Thank you for your time.